Hey guys, finally Sleeps here. Earlier in the week, I posted on YouTube and Discord that I was putting together an end-all video on fishing and asked if you had any questions. I received a shit ton of questions. I'm going to try to answer everything I got here in this video. I mean, it's kind of awesome how many of you bombarded me with your questions. Most were good questions. Not going to lie, some were pretty stupid. Some dumbasses out there, but I'm not pointing any fingers at anybody specifically. Just think of this like a TED Talk on the FIFA mobile market. I'm going to minimize the screenshots in just boring old me, breaking it down Barney style. I'm putting this all out there because it needs said, but like always, I'm not going to make it that easy. Despite what some people may tell you, fishing is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It is not for the casual player. It is not in violation of any of EA's terms of service. It does not work overnight. Now, what it does do is make a ton of coins if you persevere at it and the method, and it does require a ton of dedication, a lot of players, and an unheard of amount of patience. The point of this video is to fully explain the fundamentals of the fishing method that I developed 2 seasons ago. I've never put it all out here before because I wanted to discourage as many gamers as possible from attempting it, because I was afraid it would lay waste to an already fragile market. But over the last 6 months, there have been quite a few wannabes flooding YouTube, Discord, and Twitter with misinformation, get-rich-quick claims, pyramid schemes, and worst of all, bannable market offenses played off like it was a legitimate method of earning coins. They basically forced my hand. It's all leading down a road toward disaster, and I honestly can't take any more disaster, so it's time to just set the record straight. Some of you are probably nervous right now because you know that what I'm about to say could bring the whole house of cards down, as delicate as the FIFA mobile market is. Now, to protect the market and the game we all love, I'm installing a few safety nets in here. Like I mentioned before, this is going to be a boring, chatty, talky, verbal breakdown. Hopefully most of you will get bored out of your ever-loving mind and just move on to some other video about cats playing the keyboard or whatever the fuck's on there right now. That's kind of on purpose, by design. This method is not for you if you do not have the patience to sit through this. I'm weeding out those guys, the casual players, because of this. For those that do make it through, the ones that take notes and truly try to understand the market and why this method works, you'll be flying high in a few weeks. You and I could be friends. That's basically. If you're looking for millions of coins overnight with minimal effort, then just turn the video off. Go watch Dude Perfect or some other stupid shit. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. This is more like a diet for coins. Can you lose weight juicing for a few days? Sure. But you'll put it all back on the first cheeseburger you eat. If you want to make big changes, though, you need more than just a diet. You need a healthy lifestyle. This is the latter. It's not like a laxative diet. Second, if you're not willing to spend coins to make coins, this isn't for you. If you're not willing to spend coins and wait a while to get back your investment before you start making coins, this isn't for you. So many people say, I bought this player. When can I sell it? When can I sell it? When can I sell it? Dude, shouldn't have bought the player. If you're worried about when you can sell it, you shouldn't have bought the player. For those that are ready, though, this is a worthwhile means to millions of coins. Not just over time, but overnight, eventually, and then perpetually. 1 million coins a day? Sure, it's not that hard. 2 million per day? Why not? 10 million per day? Absolutely. Hell, 500 million coins overnight is possible with this method. Not every day, obviously, but when the stars align, hell yes, it's possible. We did it more than once last season. It's going to take a while to claim all this stuff. We're starting at 0. And 727 million. 727. Damn, now we gotta spend all that money. Before I lay out what phishing is, let's look at where it originated, where it came from. Understanding the market and its history is almost as important as knowing how to list a player. Before you can best your enemy, you must first understand your enemy. In the beginning of FIFA Mobile, we were riding high off of console, like FIFA on the console. The internet was full of coin merchants. Coin merchants, if you remember those days. Back then, you were able to transfer coins from one account to another account because there was no bot as a mediator. I could post a player and you could buy that player. Coins left your account and went into mine. We could literally play a game and say, well, whoever wins this match gets 1,000,000 coins. And I could sell you a bronze player for 1,000,000 coins. You just paid me 1,000,000 coins for my bronze player. You could go online and buy coins from coin merchants, send them some hard-earned cash via like Venmo or PayPal, and they would buy your bronze player for millions of coins within the hour. Obviously, it was a terms of service violation, but EA found it impossible to police for a while. Then in 2017, EA put an end to it. They forced all of us into a market simulation. The bot was introduced, and it didn't matter if you took the red pill or the blue pill. The bot became the gatekeeper to the matrix. That's when I developed and started farming silvers, a method I shared only with league mates for over a year. We made millions every day for at least a full season. Then on December 21st, 2018, I posted the very first video on YouTube explaining the farming method. Now, why did I call it farming? 2 reasons. 1, because farming is a standard video game concept for generating resources. And 2, because I'm a bit of an asshole, and EA was incorrectly defining farming as using auction bots or tricking the game into thinking you're playing matches when you're not playing matches. Now, my method of farming was legitimate and not manipulating the mechanics in any way, but I still called it farming because, like I said, I'm a bit of an asshole. Everything was great until the spring of 2019 when EA added the suggested price feature to the market, which acted like a cap, in a way, to the bot. Now, my farming silvers method literally died overnight. The method we generated billions of coins with for the last 2 seasons turned to ash like Thanos just snapped his fingers. So it took a couple of weeks, experimentation, like I was a freshman college girl, never mind, gave way to farming 2.0, or as I called it at finallyhesleeps.com for members at the site, phishing. We kept it private for just site members all the way until February of 2020. On February 11th, that's when we introduced the FIFA Mobile community to the term phishing. Much like everything else in the market, too many people try to do the same thing in the market. They flood it. It basically kills the market. It counteracts the method and the bot or karma, whatever. It just pushes back. It's like a sheep at the edge of a cliff. That's why the video was so cryptic, the one from February. It was boring and long. Oh my God, it was so long. If there was an easy way to get rich quick in FIFA Mobile and everyone knew about it, what will be the point of the game or the method or whatever? If everyone had 100 million coins all the time, player values would react in kind. That's the basic principle in economics. Being rich and being poor are relative. Give everyone $1 million and the only rich guy on the block is the one with $1 billion. Things were fine for about 8 months. Then someone released a video describing a method that allowed you to find spikes from my fishing method and then ride them for big coins, which was fine because all it did was generate more coins for those of us who actually understood what fishing was. I let it go. I felt bad for those that lost a ton of coins attempting this method. But again, I let it go because we made a bunch off of it. Then some dumbass released a video that tried to play off bot manipulation as a coin-making method by giving it a name. Player flipping. Newsflash, if you rob a bank and tell the cops, I was just liberating the money, it's still a felony. The market was turning into the Wild West for a while. Someone was releasing a video on fishing almost every week, and they are doing more harm than good to the market. And that's where we're at. Okay, it's finally time to explain the basics, dispel the misinformation, and just have something to point people to when they have tons and tons of questions. The market is broken down into 3 sets of parallel universes. There's the half of the market that you see when you browse for a player to buy, and the half of the market you don't see that you sell into, times 3, because there are 3 different markets across the FIFA mobile community. Now, the 3 markets are not labeled. They're not labeled, so you can't ask someone, which market are you in? They are not necessarily based on where you live, and they've never been given an official name somewhere that you can reference to see it or whatever. To see which one you're in. You can be in the same market as someone else, obviously, but that market does not have a name. Now, for the purposes of like my website and some of our Discord chat, we've labeled the 3 markets for those there, but someone else can give them a different name over here, and you'd never know. So if you tell me, hey, I'm in market 1, that means absolutely nothing to me, nor to anyone else, unless they're in that market with you and they got the same market 1 label where you got it. That's unless they call it market 1 and you call it market 1 or market A or market Kim Kardashian. My point is the markets have no name. They're more like the artist formerly known as Prince or Kaiser Soze than a spoiled brat with a big ass and a sex tape. The name is irrelevant. Okay, back to the split between the market you see and the market you don't. When you list a player into the market, it doesn't show up for the people to buy it. Let me re-say that again because people still don't understand that. When you list a player into the market, it doesn't show up for other people to buy it. It only gets seen by the bot. Now, if the bot buys it, or one does not disappear from the searchable market. So if you get on and you're like, okay, I'm going to buy this card. I want Ass Man. Here's one right there. I buy it. Okay. It disappears from the market that you've seen, that everyone else can see. Anybody else in your market, oh, that Ass Man just disappeared. Where did Ass Man go? But if you list an Ass Man and the bot buys it, an Ass Man does not disappear from the market. Ass Man is still in the market because it's 2 sides to the same, like I said, parallel universe. It's 2 halves of the market are related but not connected. Do you get that? I had this conversation on Discord in the Foot Mobile Twitch server the other day. Think of the 2 halves of the market like second cousins. Sure, they're related, but they can still make out at the family reunion if they want to and get away with it. Even get married if they're the mayor of New York. They are related, but not connected. And when you buy a player in the market half that you see, the bot will list another player in its place with the starting price set at what you just paid and a new bin at the percentage higher. That means by buying a player in the market, you are raising the average value of that player across all available cards in your market. This is important for 2 reasons. If enough people start buying the same player and the bot keeps relisting new players at higher values, what gets created is what I call a manufactured investment. And 2, Two, you can't take a player to extinction despite what some people will tell you, because when you buy a player, you know it's getting replaced by another one because the bot lists players based on what gets bought. Let's hit on both of that real quick. A manufactured investment is when someone suggests a specific player. They say it should see an increase in value, so people begin buying that card in hopes of the value increasing down the road. By multiple people buying the same card and the bot replacing the sold cards with a new card at a higher value, the average value of the card keeps increasing until the people who bought the card at the beginning of this so-called investment begin listing their cards back to the bot on the side of the market you can't see, when the bot is buying at a value high enough that those who tried to get in on the investment opportunity too late in the cycle are actually the ones creating the value increases that's leading to the investment paying off for those who pushed the opportunity in the first place. It's kind of like the egg fucking the chicken if you think about it. That's what happens. Again, the buying side of the market is related but not connected to the selling side of things. An increase in value on one side shows across the other side, but not exactly. Now let's talk about manipulating the bot or player flipping. First of all, it is a terms of service violation and is a bannable offense. Second of all, it wreaks havoc on the market. Third, it's a pyramid scheme that leads to huge profits at the expense of larger investments into the pot to keep the profits coming in. Think of it like buying Honda Civics and putting Lamborghini badges on them. The bot's not going to buy them off of you. So you put a wig on and then you buy a few from yourself at those Lamborghini prices. Then you take the wig off and tell the bot, holy shit, I can't keep Civics in stock. I can't keep Lamborghinis in stock. The bot just shrugs. So you have to put that wig back on and buy a few more off of yourself. Then the bot goes, well, maybe this guy in the wig is onto something. So he buys the cheapest Honda Civic, rebadged as a Lamborghini, that you have on the lot. He realizes it's Honda Civic and walks away. At this point, you have the parking lot full of Honda Civics for sale with Lamborghini badges on them at Lamborghini prices, plus all the ones you bought with a wig. Those are all sitting behind the dealership in the back lot. And you need to sell all those. You need to sell the ones out front to bring the ones out back out front. But you want to sell them to the bot, not yourself. So you keep doing it enough that the bot starts buying your Hondas. As long as you keep buying them too, the bot will keep buying and the cash keeps coming in. But it's going out just the same as it's coming in. Then when the streets are full of Honda Civics and your back lot is full of all the ones you just bought, the bot loses interest and you're stuck with a bunch of mislabeled sedans you can't give away, because now even the homeless guy begging for change at the front of the car lot is more interested in the wig you have on your head than the used Honda that you're driving. That's kind of what it is. It's not smart. And it's a bannable offense. It's manipulating the bot in a way that takes advantage of the mechanics. Sure, there are ways to make it generate marginal profit, marginally more profit than loss in some cases, and not get stuck with a parking lot full of overpriced grocery getters. But the fact remains, once the government realized you cooked your books by buying your own stock, you're basically looking at jail time. This method is a bannable offense because it's terms of service violation. This is straight up bot manipulation. Call it whatever you want, player flipping, whatever. If you partake, you're on borrowed time. Now we need to understand when and why the bot buys players on the unseen side of the market. The bot is nothing more than code that follows a preset task list. It's not all powerful or all knowing. It buys players just to keep the market moving forward. If in bot manipulation, what you're doing is triggering the bot to buy players, that is exploiting the mechanics of the bot market, which can result in suspension, restricted access, or even a permanent ban according to EA's terms of service. The last thing we want is to get banned from the game we love. Now, the bot buys players on a schedule. It buys X amount of players over Y amount of time. It buys the cheapest players, ending the soonest, and moves on. That's about it. Nothing more to it than that. To get the bot to buy your player, it needs to be the cheapest, ending the soonest. The quantity of a player that the bot buys is based on how many of that player are out there and what its drop rate is. If it's a card that gets pumped into the market a lot, then it's probably going to get bought more over a set period of time. If it's a rare card or an extinct card, then it's going to be bought less over a specific set of time. The bot doesn't search for players to buy. It knows exactly what it can buy because it's a bot. So it keeps track of what's been listed on its side of the market that you can't see and just thinks ahead. It's a bot after all, so it does what it wants. So it keeps listing. Doesn't keep listing. You keep listing, and it keeps a list of what it's going to buy and when it's needs to buy them to meet that quota. That rule of player Y to buy X amount over Z minutes. Think of that list that the bot holds as its queue. Now, what happens if the bot is supposed to buy X amount of Y player over Z minutes at the cheapest prices ending soonest, but there are less than X players in the market for whatever reason, and the queue for player Y gets a little thin, then the bot will start looking for player Y at a higher value to fill the queue, because it's a bot, and a bot has to do what a bot is programmed to do. Buy X amount of player Y every Z minutes. And when this happens, the bot starts playing more normal. It starts paying more than normal for a player to keep the status quo. That's what I call a spike. Spikes naturally occur, especially in silvers. Silvers are one of the only players that are injected into the game constantly, thanks to those free 10-hour packs in the market. Because of this, the bot buys them more frequently. So what we're looking for are these spikes in the market. Now that you understand the market, it all should be making sense. The reason I call it phishing, and that's with an F and not a PH, it's like literal fishing. It's not like phishing the scam. We're putting lines into the market and searching for those cards that are experiencing an increase in value or a spike. We put one on the line as bait and we toss it into the lake, which is all fine. And yeah, you might catch something with one pole in the water, but this is fishing in bulk. This is guerrilla fishing. You're putting lines in the water all over the damn lake so you never miss a spot that's biting. Now, by doing this, we're not affecting the values in the market, unlike bot manipulation. We're not manufacturing an increase in value by corrupting the community with fake investments or manufacturing an increase in value by buying cards to raise that value. We're just looking for natural increases in value due to the nature of the market. Now, here's how it works. The bot is buying player, let's say it's buying X amount of Y player over Z minutes. Now, it changes, many factors change that, but those are the three factors, X, Y, and Z. Now, I need to make sure I have Y player in the market 24 hours a day, so I'm always an option for the bot. When the bot comes up with a bag of cheeseburgers like that basehead menace to society trying to trade me a bag of cheeseburgers for a hit, I'm going to take the cheeseburgers. I don't want to hear his next offer. No. In fact, if you're in such dire need for your, hit, then here, I'll give you the rest of my player Y I have in my reserve, because I probably have 6 or 7 more. I'll gladly get you back on track. That's what I'm telling the bot, and I'm taking his cheeseburgers. That's what phishing is. Here's how it works. You pick an OVR. It can be any OVR. That part doesn't matter. Except be aware that the higher the OVR, the lower the value on X, and the higher the value on Z in the X amount of Y player over Z minutes. You might have to write that down to understand exactly what I said. Pick an OVR that is experiencing low values and buy all that you can. Considering there are a lot of players in any one OVR, for example, there are 749 different base 68s in FIFA Mobile currently. You need a lot to cover all your bases. You can't just buy 250 and expect it to work. 1,000 players of a single OVR is a baseline. You can fish with less, but more is obviously better. Next, you're going to list one of each of those players you just bought on a 24-hour cycle, just in case the bot needs any of them. Then you wait. If during that 24-hour period the bot buys any of your players, he's obviously in need of more, and yes, I've just decided the bot has a penis. He is a he. Once a player sells, go to your reserves and list a duplicate at the suggested price on a 4-hour cycle. Wait a few minutes and then list another. Feed the bot slowly in exchange for that bag of cheeseburgers. That's a spike in the market, occurring naturally, that you just found and filled the void for the market bot. You're doing a service. Now, after the 24-hour period ends and your players all time out, relist them all the exact same way. One of each player just in case the bot needs one. Simple enough. The next big question I saw over and over and over again on YouTube and Discord is how much do we list the players for when putting out bait for the bot? Now, it's actually pretty easy. When you're buying all of your players, you're obviously buying at the cheapest value possible. Whatever that value is, you don't want to sell it to the bot and lose money, so you're going to set your starting price at a value where even if it sells at the end of an auction, just as a teaser, a little taste for the bot, let's say, I'm going to want to at least double my investment. So the starting price is always twice what I paid. The bin or buy it now value for me is about finding a spike worth my time, especially if I have 1,000 or more players out in the market. So that should be somewhere between 6 and 8 times what I paid. If I'm buying 68s at 1,000 coins each, I'm going to list one at 2,000 coins, starting price, and a bin between 6,000 and 8,000, kind of depending. Rinse and repeat. That's the basic breakdown of fishing. But there's so much more to touch on, and you have a lot of questions, so I need to answer. Let's dig deeper into this now that you understand exactly what it is. Within FIFA Mobile, you can only have 1,199 players before you get locked out. Actually, you can only have 1,188 players in your reserves plus the 11 in your active squad. So if you look at this, except telling us like 1,200, I've got 1,178. Many of us have thousands. The reason being is your active squad is 11 plus your reserves. It's 1,200 anyway. Many of us have thousands, as in thousands, multiple thousands. Many much more than what FIFA Mobile says we can have. Now here's the trick. You can have up to 1,200 players in your active squad and reserve. You can have as many reserve players as you want as long as they're in the market or in your inbox instead of just in your reserves. You can have 11 players in your active squad, 1,188 in your reserves, thousands in the market, and thousands in the inbox, and still not be locked out of the game. Okay, now the parking lot. This is where the term parking lot comes from. If you want to hold 2,000 players to fish, let's say you have a ton of duplicates, because remember, the duplicates are where the big coins come from. One way to do it is with a parking lot. Here's how it works. Let's say you want to buy 3,068s, but you can only hold 1,200 players. What you need to do is implement the clear function. But as many of you have already figured out, the clear function is still kind of jacked up. We deal with it. So here's what it is. Look, this is the clear function. You can see it right here. It's I don't have anything that's dismissed, so you can see that the clear is still out. Here's what you do. Buy as many players as you can hold. Instead of listing one of each into the market and looking for duplicates, list them all into the market on a 4-hour rotation at a very high value. High enough that if you sold anything, you wouldn't be upset about it, but not low enough that any of them are really going to sell. And you repeat that until you have 3,000 cards in the market. So buy 500, list 500, buy 500, list 500 until you're all set. Then after all 3,000 cards time out and they're sitting in your inbox dismissed all willy-nilly, they're not going to be in order or anything like that. That's when you're going to want to hit that clear button, okay, in your inbox. What that's going to do is put all 3,000 of those players from your inbox into your reserves, but you're going to end up locked out. It's going to happen. We know it. Don't worry about it. Restart the game because, like I just said, the clear button still glitched at the time of making this video. When you get back in, though, you're going to be locked out, but you're going to have access to all 3,000 cards in your reserves. And they're in alphabetical order, obviously, because they're in your reserves. Duh, that's the way it works. Go through, list one of each at your calculated starting price and bin on a 24-hour schedule, normal fishing. Now, if you have 3,068s, you know you'll have at least 2,251 68s left over because there are only 749 different ones. You're still going to be locked out. You can't hold 2,251 cards. This is where we create the parking lot. Go back to the beginning of the 68s. Start your parking lot starting price at what your normal bin was. And then multiply that by 4 to make a new parking lot bin. New parking lot bin. For example, if you're buying 68s at 1,000 coins, your normal starting price would be 2,000 coins with a bin between 6,000 and 8,000. We'll just say 7,000 for shits and giggles. Now, once you have one of each in that price in the market, you're going to start over and set your parking lot starting price at 7,000, which is your normal fishing bin, and then set the parking lot bin at 28,000. Start the first card and then post them all in the market, like every single 68 you have left. All of your duplicates go in, every single player, on a 4-hour cycle. You're no longer going to be locked out. And at the end of 4 hours, instead of having those 2,251 68 sitting in your reserves, keeping you from playing, they'll be sitting in your inbox in alphabetical order. Then when a player sells at your normal fishing price, instead of finding his duplicates in the reserves, you'll scroll down through your inbox, dismiss the duplicates from there, and then list them into the market from your reserves. Now, the drawback to a huge parking lot is all of the scrolling, both when you need to find duplicates, but more so when you need to find a sale. Like if something sells and you're scrolling down through it to figure out what just sold. Like if you're trying to figure out, well, let's see what just sold. You can scroll like 5-6 minutes if you have thousands of players try to figure out what's sold. So it does require some dedication if you're running a parking lot. Get used to scrolling. Your fingers are going to hurt. A note here, when you're going to have to clean up your parking lot, you're going to have to clean up your parking lot. That's what I'm saying. Every once in a while, you're going to have to clear and do it all again because stuff gets out of order. You have to buy more, whatever it is. General rule, imagine clearing your parking lot and redoing it at least once a week. Once a week, on average. This one's a good question. Lets me know you're thinking. We're thinking. It kind of depends on the OVR you're fishing and what time zone you're in. Now, my best advice is to pay attention to what time of the day you have the most bites on your bait. Having your players time out around that time would be best for you. For example, if you list at 9 a.m. your time, and if you have an hour block, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., and that's when you're listing every day, but you're getting a bunch of sales between 3 p.m. and 4 p.m., then I'd suggest listing your cards every day between 3:30 and 4:30. That way they're timing out during that window of sales each day. Remember, it's going to buy the lowest priced, ending the earliest. So finding that zone where they're selling, where you have your best window, is going to be best for you. Now, for elites and masters, though, and oh yeah, you can totally fish elites and masters. I try to time them out in the hour after reset each day, just because there's so many factors that come into play for elites and masters, whether it be events, SBCs, that kind of stuff. So the hour right after reset is when I like to have elites and masters timeouts. Okay, this happens. You can either undercut your suggested prices to make sure your duplicates sell, or just chalk it up and relist for another 4 hours at their new suggested price if they don't sell the first 4 hours. For me, I never undercut suggested. I trickle them in one at a time just to see if the suggested is going up or coming down. Overall, this seems to give me the best results. How many players should I buy? Now, this is a loaded question. You should buy as many players as you can. I've already mentioned that 1,000 of a single OVR is probably a good starting point. I'm going to take this a step further and say you're asking the wrong question. It should be how many different players should I buy, because I see people coming into the streams and stuff saying I have 50 of this player, 100 of this player, of a single player, not like of an OVR, like of a single player. I have 100 Assmans. He's going to go up in value. That's just dumb as hell. The market doesn't work that way. It's all about diversity. If you have more than 20 of a single player, expect to be giving away a lot if you're trying to get rid of them all during one spike. Now, when you buy a player from the market, the act of buying that player raises the value of that player. When you sell a player back to the bot, that in turn lowers the value of the player. Every sale into the bot lowers the buying value of the next one once the bot's queue is full and satisfied. That means you can only sell so many before the value plummets through the process of you selling your duplicates. Investing in one player with that many duplicates on purpose is just stupid. You're overthinking it. If you end up with a bunch of one card on accident, pay attention and maybe avoid it when you go buying, more cards for, to keep your numbers up. More is better when you're talking about diversity. More is not better when talking about excessive numbers of any one individual card. No suggested price. Sometimes you're not going to see a suggested price. That can happen a few different reasons. Either the market has so many of that card that a suggested price is moot, or the card was just released, as in like the few minutes after Team of the Week, and a suggested hasn't been calculated yet. Maybe your connection is just really slow, or maybe there's an issue with the market server. I don't know. A lot of different factors can come into play. The point is, if there is no suggested price, if it's a duplicate you're checking, then just skip it. If you're just randomly checking suggested prices and none pop up, just skip it. Now, if you're listing them as bait, you shouldn't be bothered with suggested prices anyway. It's not that big a deal. I read this question a couple of times, and it really bothers me because I think people are missing the bigger picture. Fishing is all about the bigger picture. This is the scenario we're all looking for, and believe it or not, it happens quite a bit. It definitely happens more than you think it would. This is where my old method of farming meets the new method of fishing. It's that hybrid that I'm talking about. The market runs in waves, obviously. You have peaks and you have troughs. It's up sometimes and it's down sometimes. That's why I say it runs in waves. Now, when the market is at its peak, at the high point of a wave, average and median player values are high. Now, when it's at the bottom down in the trough, average and median player values are low. Now, the difference between median and average, which is really important, you have to understand the difference, that has to do with the spectrum of sales. Let's explain this. Imagine 5 guys in a room all together, and you have them pull their pockets out. One guy has a $10 bill. The next guy has a $20 bill. The next guy has a $50. The next guy has another 20. And then the last guy, he's about to head out to the strip club. So he's got a wad of 100 singles all rolled up in his pocket. Now, if you add all those up, it's $200 divided by 4. That gives you a $40 average. So if I said, what's the average amount a guy in this room has? It's $40. But the median is the midpoint in the wave. So you line all those guys up from, the brokest on one side all the way to the richest on the other. And then you count, boom, 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 right in the middle. How much does this guy have? You check his pocket and he's got a $20 bill. That's a huge swing. That's $20 to $40. That is 200% more in average compared to median. I talk about medians a lot more so than averages. The reason being is things get skewed because of peaks and spikes. Now, those 5 guys in a room, the one in there, the one with the penchant for body glitter and silicone implants, he's skewing the curve. He's that asshole that was with you in college that would throw out 100% on a quiz and everybody else had 60s and 70s and the curve went out the window. That's the problem with a card in spikes. People get so hung up on the spikes, they forget about everything else. Median is more important than average. If you have over 700 players available in a single OVR, so let's say you pick an OVR range and you realize there are exactly 700 different base players in the market at any given time in the game. And let's say you're seeing values in the 3,000 coin range for about 300 of them, 5,000 coin range for another 300, which leaves 100 left. And let's say 15,000 for 60, and then 75,000 for the 40 remaining. Now, those last 40 cards at 75,000 are going to throw the whole curve off. I mean, that's a good range. I mean, you got 40 players, 40 different players giving 75,000. You're going to forget about the 300 at 3,000 and the 300 at 5,000. That's like an insane range in the market that we don't even have to deal with. Now, if you look at average, it's only 9,000 coins players across the board for, when you do average because of the 700. For the median, though, it's only 5,000. It's almost half. Despite those 50 cards giving out 75,000 coins on their spikes, the median is 5,000, the average is 9,000. It's almost twice. So if you deal with averages, it doesn't work. People get all hung up on the 75,000 coin cards and forget about the value on the rest. Whether or not you adjust the price should really depend on how many cards you have, how many players you have in reserve. If you have more than 3 times the amount of cards in the OVR, then it would be highly beneficial for you to adjust the value and look for the higher value spikes. So if you have 3,000 cards, you're going to want to skew things a little bit because you want more out of the higher spikes. On day 2, remember, we always work in 24 hours. Day 1, you ain't going to know shit about the values because you're going to be listing at your normal stuff. This is why this question really bothers me. You're only going to see what's happening on day 2. This is where I think my biggest problem comes in. Fishing is about finding the spikes and selling your duplicates at that higher value. If the spikes are getting larger and larger and larger, if you go too high with your bait, you're going to miss out on all the smaller spikes, which are still large profit, often 5 to 15 times what you invested. If I told you that you could put 1 million coins into the game and get 15 million back, you'd be ecstatic. I mean, that's exciting, but the prospect of 70 times their initial investment throws it off, and they'd rather target that 70 time investment rather than the 15. Now, if I sell 5 investments at 15 times what I paid, that's equal to 75 times that one investment in profit. Based on the difference between average and median that we just talked about, the apparent way to go would be a lot more of the 15 time profit than a few of the 75 time profit opportunities. Did I screw that up? Do you understand? There's a lot more 15 time prime profit opportunities than there are 75 time opportunities. So you're hamstringing yourself if you only go after the higher stuff. You get too greedy and you just shoot too high. Now, if you have 700 cards to begin with, only 700 cards, the odds that you'll have more than a few at that 75,000 coin range, the spikes for the 75,000, you're not going to have that many. The odds are low that you're going to have a bunch of cards. On day 1, you'll probably miss out on most of them no matter what because you don't have enough players to ride it out to day 2 anyway. Again, more players is always better. Here's where the big rub comes in. I think the problem with this question has to do with the people not knowing when to buy players. Buying players when they're at their peak and not at their trough means you're adjusting your fishing value down more often than not which is a great way to lose coins no matter what. So what I'm saying there is, if you're buying at the top of the peak and you're adjusting based on what's going on in the market, the problem is that you only get advantages when it's at the peak. You want to buy at the trough. That way you've got all this time when the wave is up and down to be able to do things. Instead of worrying about adjusting your value based on the market, just make sure you're buying in the troughs. Then use the peaks of the waves, like the scenarios I just mentioned, to unload all of your stock. Adjust a bit to find the higher spikes, but be okay with 10 times, even 5 times your investment. Unload your stock during the peak and start over. Buy again in another trough and just repeat. That's always the best course of action. This allows you to maximize profits through more sales. Fishing is about bulk and quantity. It's guerrilla farming, guerrilla fishing. Farming a full OVR by buying it at its trough and unloading it at its peak is the holy grail of fishing. Those 500 million to 750 million nights fishing the market that I talked about earlier in this video come from huge swings between the trough and the peak like this. This question requires a stupid answer. The best OVRs to fish are the ones you can buy the cheapest and sell for the highest. To know which OVR that is at any specific time, you need to pay attention to trends and just watch over time. Because like I said, it's a wave. If a card is seeing lots of ups and downs in the market, going from 3,000 coin value to 20,000 coin values, then I'd suggest focusing on it. Only buying when it's in that 3,000 coin range, fishing normally until it's in the 20,000 coin range, and then unloading for max profits in the whole farming fishing thing that I just talked about. That's sort of hybrid. If it's an OVR that haven't seen much travel, like they've been kind of sitting between 3,000 and then they have a really good few days at 6,000 or 5,000, but we don't see those 20, 30, 40, 50,000 things that often, then I would either avoid it or never buy above that 3,000 value when you see it. And the one way to do this is to do what I did at the start of FIFA Mobile 21. I bought 200 of every single OVR. I kept track of what I paid for them, and then I fished them every day just to see which one was having the best spikes, which one's amplitude of their wave, the peak and the trough were, moving the most, and then focus on those findings so you make the most intelligent investment with your coins. So far this season, we've seen the most play in the 60s, 64s, 65s and 61, 62, 63, those aren't far behind. 61s too, they're kind of in that range. 60, 64, and 65 been the best. 66 and 68 have been absolutely lifeless for the most part. 67 and 69 seem to have their moments, but no real dramatic results. Actually, the numbers we've been getting over the last couple of days when I'm making this video for 69s have been the best. Golds have been meh at best. Bronze have been hit and miss across the board, and elites and masters are an entity all unto themselves. So which OVR is the best to fish? Depends. Depends on the time of the season, depends on what's going on, and depends on which market you're in of the three parallel universes. Can I fish elites? Absolutely you can fish elites. But you do need to adjust your prices a bit. Think of them more like long-term fishing, farming, hybrid investments. You're going to have to watch the troughs and peaks pretty heavily on elites. Above 80, it's all about the training XP to coin value ratio. Elites and masters have their value based on their trade-in training value. If you can buy an elite player for 3 to 4 times its XP value, then you're good to go. So if an elite gives out 25,000 XP, I mean, like when you go to train it into another player, they have an XP trade-in value. That's what I'm talking about. So if it's 25,000, then I'm good paying 75 to 100,000 for it. Fishing value is different. I'm never going to expect a 75,000 coin investment to bring in 6 to 8 times what I paid. I mean, it could, but I'm not expecting it to. So my starting price is usually about 10 times its XP value with a bin at 12 times. Completely different than bronze, silvers, golds. For example, an 80 that gives out roughly 25,000 XP, if I'm buying them at between 75,000 and 100,000 coins, which is 3 to 4 times their XP value, I'm going to list them with a starting price around 250,000 coins, which is 10 times its XP value, with a bin at 300,000 coins, which is 12 times its XP value. That's just a general rule. I mean, you can shift it, give or take 50,000 coins. Now, that's for elites, and that's only for elites. Masters are even tighter. I'm looking to buy players in the 2 to 2.5 times their XP value range and sell in the 5 to 6 times their XP value range. For example, if a 90 gives out about 315,000 XP, then I'm looking to buy them in the 600 to 800,000 coin range and list them with a starting price of 1.5 mil and a bin at 1.8 mil, give or take 100 to 200,000 coins. Now, that's just a general rule for masters. Base players can use program cards. Okay, that's a great question, and the answer is yes and no. Think of mixing base cards with program cards like mixing OVRs. Think of them as separate entities altogether, even if they're in the same OVR. I break cards down into 6 different categories, and I fish them all separately. Base players, premium base players, team of the week players, rivals players, current event players, and extinct event players. In extinct event players, it's based on the length of extinction. The buying values on all of these fluctuate as well based on their rarity, their proclivity, and their current and past drop rates. Now, if a player floods the market for a really long time, its value will likely not see a large amplitude. Remember, it's all about waves in finance. The higher the amplitude, which means the peaks are higher and the troughs are lower, is better. A low amplitude means the difference between the two is minimal. We want a big difference. High amplitude. Team of the week and rivals fall into this category of being a low amplitude. They are so prolific, they get treated differently by the bot. That's why I only search base silvers, never team of the week silvers. Now, silvers have a much higher amplitude, base silvers do, than golds do because they have a higher drop rate. Therefore, the bot buys more of them more often. Program players are similar to team of the week while they're current. So like if we're in an event, like if we're in the middle of freeze, they're going to be pumped into the market constantly. So they're more, their rarity is low. They're not prolific. So their amplitude's going to be low. You're not going to see spikes in them because they're getting dumped in constantly, especially if they have high drop rates. Then once they do go extinct, their amplitudes will gradually increase over time. I mean, better yet, though, their median, their midpoint between their troughs and peaks is going to rise. Think of it that way. So their mid-level will go up, and the wave will follow it. Factor in SBCs, and the elites and golds see even larger amplitude due to SBC demands and specific requirements. I say elites and golds, I really mean elites and high-level golds like 79s. Now, these are all factors that you have to take into consideration when you decide what you're buying, where you're buying, and when you're buying. Can't really say which is more important, which is a better OVR, but yes, you can fish elites. Just know there are rules. How often do I buy more players? This I assumed was self-evident. Every day. Every single day. I'm always reinvesting my spoils into more players. As a general rule, I try to buy more players than I just sold the night before, as long as the value isn't at its peak in a wave. If it is in its peak in a wave, then I'll buy players in another OVR, one that's in its trough. Then I take the remaining profit from what I had the night before and turn it into higher value players for advanced fishing. So let's say I sold 167 rated players for 8 to 20,000 coins last night and brought 1.5 million in sales. As long as the 67s could still be bought in that range of 1 to 2,000 coins, I'd buy 100 more and use 150 to 200,000 of that 1.5 million to replenish my stock of 67s. Then I'd probably reinvest the remaining 1.3 onto elites or maybe a master. That's the smart play. Always turning coins into more profits, stacking profit onto more investments. Now, if I sold those 67s and they were in an area where they had gone up in value and I couldn't find them for under 5,000, I probably wouldn't buy 67s. I would say, okay, 69s are 800 coins a piece. We'll buy 269s. And then when the 69s are up in their peak and I sold 200 of those and I can't buy new 69s, that's when I buy the 67s. So you just need to pay attention to the numbers. Okay, still confused. Let's run the numbers because I'm a numbers guy. Let's say you bought 1,000 70 rated golds for 1,000 coins each, which means you invested 1 million coins, and you list one each with a bin of 8,000, as your bait. Over the course of a week, your first week doing it, you sell a total of 200 of those 1,000 players for values between 2,000 and 8,000 coins as bait, and then some of your duplicates went between 8,000 and 25,000. Nothing special. Just another day at the office. Let's say you sold 60 at 2,000 coins, 40 at 8,000 coins, and 100 duplicates averaging 14,000 each. Nothing special, and that's like over the course of a week. No huge spikes, just a normal week fishing 70s in the gold range. Then you replenish the 200 that you sold with another 200 and another 1,000 coins each. So I think the best way to let's just look at the numbers. Okay, let's say 1,000 at 1,000 is 1 million invested. 60 at 2,000, that's 120,000 coins. 40 at 8, that's 320,000 coins. 100 at 14,000, that's 1.4 million coins. And then you had to buy back 200,000 coins worth of stuff. That is a total of 640,000 in profit. So on day one, if you had 1 million coins that you invested into 70s, and you sold 200 of that 1,000 in that give or take range that I said, you end the week with 1.64 million and 1,000 70s still to sell. So you've not only recovered your investment, but now you're moving forward and you continue to do that each week. That's how the profits continue to build. And that's just without market tax. If you add the market tax in, it's still 548K in profit instead of 640K. And that's on a shitty week with a shitty card. Plus, you now have 1,000 players, like I said, in reserve that are free and clear. You can move forward. Now, imagine if you bought 3,000 players instead of 1,000, and you bought them in silvers instead of golds, and you're averaging 300 to 500 sales per night instead of 200 in a week, and you're selling them as bait between 5,000 and 15,000 because they're in a peak like the 69s are doing right now at the time of this video. There spikes in ranges from like 20 to 85,000. Instead of 640,000 in profit over the course of a week, you can see 10, 20 million a night. 30 to 40 million overnight isn't only possible, it's expected if you have enough of the right OVR bought in a trough to sell in a peak. Anything else? Of course there's a lot more. I'm never going to give away all of my secrets in a public video on YouTube. Got to save some big tips for the sub-only videos that come out each week. And if you divulge everything to the masses, the market would just take a hit, and I hate affecting the market. Now, I do realize this video will affect the market, but it should be minimal considering how I put this thing together. Chatty, talky, boring as fuck. Hopefully 50% of the people turned it off before the history lesson was over. 25% got bored halfway through and said to themselves, I got this. Let's just give this a try. And no more than 25% of you stuck it out all the way to the end. Now, that patience and perseverance means you're ready for this method. If you're here listening to this now and your dumbass didn't fast forward to get here, then you're ready to fish the market. You'll also notice that I'm turning off the fucking comments on this video. Nothing is more annoying than that D-bag out there posting in the comments, don't watch the video, here's the recap, directing people to a timestamp or when something important happens. Those guys are clueless to why I make the videos so long and boring. They're the dumbasses that are causing the problems in the market. The whole point is to deter as many people as possible from using this method. If everyone starts fishing, it floods the lake with lines, and the only one that wins is the bot because his queue's always going to be full. That's it. Thanks for hanging out with me during this TED Talk because, it's a TED Talk, I guess. Fishing. As long as you guys keep watching, I'll keep making videos. Check out one of these other videos and check out the Discord links too. The first one is Ruben and I's Foot Mobile Twitch server, and the second one, the discordapp.com invite FM. That's the big Reddit Foot Mobile server. Come in, say hi, hang out, check them out.